I think another thing that actors fail to realize is that every time you prepare or make a different choice, it's going to come out different. That's great. Until somebody says, keep it, allow yourself to change. Otherwise, you're going to get bored. And I think that's the worst thing is an actor gets bored with a scene because they never actually did enough deep work on it to allow the scene to take on a life of its own and evolve.
Do you know what an A1 acting coach looks like? An award winning one? Well, she looks just like Kimberly Jentzen, who is giving us such juicy information today that we can use for our self tapes and telling us how to rehearse, which is so vital as an actor. I'm Lydia Nicole, and this is Acting Smarter Now. What are some essential character tools that you train your students?
I have developed a lot of character tools, and I don't have just one. I can tell you that the next book, Acting Mastery, I'm launching Acting with Impact, the second edition, very proud of it. I thought it would take 6 months to rewrite. It took 2.5 years. My book has been off the market. I pulled it off. It was reprinted 7 times,
Wow.
but I thought I should update it. So in updating it, I'm an artist, so I don't think of what's practical because now it's a collector's item and people are selling it for outrageous amount of money, the old version.
I saw that on Amazon yesterday.
So don't get
Crazy.
it, you guys. Don't get the expensive one because the new one's coming out and it's updated and I feel so strongly about this new book. It's a series of lessons and you start from the first and it's 18 lessons and you go all the way through. The second book is called Acting Mastery and I'm writing it now. It's going to get out next year and it has all the character tools in it, script analysis tools, genre. It has presentation. A lot of actors, they just think only of the internal experience, which by the way, I'm big on in my first book. But when you get to auditioning, I'm big on also how are you presenting, what choice externally are you making as well. So they work together. Of course, if you don't have an internal life, then you're not going to be convincing. But if you have both going, people are going to pay attention to you and you will get interest. I believe that it is possible for anyone to become a professional working actor. I've done it so many times in my, years of teaching. And actors that come to me are up and comers and they're going to do it too. And the only reason why you can't is if you quit. And that's it. They have to be brave. And they have to be so brave that they can work through their own limits emotionally. Because what's on the page, you're going to have to bring something to it. And if you don't bring anything to it, it's not going to be interesting. So the weakest actor, the new actor, is usually we're working through fearlessness. If you're not fearless, you will bring resistance to the work. And if you are a person who can say yes and I'll try anything, of course there's boundaries and obviously we're not talking about anything, never endanger yourself personally, never do any kind of physical or emotional risk that will endanger you. But I'm talking about simple things like if you read A Doll's House by Henrik Ibsen, and it's an incredible character. So funny, I brought that up because I just recently worked on it. Now I can't remember the character names. But anyway, there's a lot to those roles. There's just as contemporaries now, and it was written in the 1800s. And if you look at that and you can bring a strong choice to the role, then you're going to be noticed and you're going to elicit interest. And also, we work on the emotional range of a character right away because of an actor, because you're only limited by your ability or capacity to go there. And if you're unwilling to connect to deeper levels, then we have to work on that. Not that you're unwilling, you're probably willing, but you just need work, you need guidance. And I work in the imagination. I know there's a lot of schools of thought out there where I saw your email and yes, I did the method for 7 years. I went to UCLA and I studied with Delia Salvi there and I loved her and I learned the method. But when I got out of school, college, and I kept studying with her, and then I went on to other teachers that were similar. I don't want to list all the teachers, but I did study with Roy London, who was similar. I discovered I would book and they would ask me, about going to tears. And I found that, or obviously I was an ingenue. So one of the things I was always asked to do was kiss, slap, and cry. So The kissing was easy. The slapping was fine. And we also did stage slaps. I mean, not that you would hit somebody, but it was a different. I teach actors how to slap, so that you don't hurt anybody. And long story short, for the grief, it was never consistent. I could never guarantee. So I fake it a lot. And I wasn't happy with that. I didn't like faking it. I wanted to be authentic. And what I learned and grew to learn, and I started training with everyone from Meisner to, obviously Adler, and I loved Adler, all imagination. And I studied with George Tana, who is the Chekhov technique.
So tell me about George, because that's your mentor. You refer to him as your mentor. What is it that he taught that was different from what everyone else taught that you took classes from?
He liberated me. He completely liberated me, got me out of my head. I was doing good work. All of my colleagues were upset when I became a coach. They said, "Why are you leaving?" And in those days, it's a long story. I don't want to go into it, but long story short, when I became a teacher, first of all, after having had all the background I had, the Meisner, the Strasberg, everything, Uta Hagen, I also trained at American Conservatory Theater, helped me stand strong when I learned imagination. Because had I not had a lot of background, then wouldn't have had anything to lay against what I had learned previously. Plus, all of that training was fabulous too. I mean, I was a good actress from all that training. What I needed to do was have my own self-integrity, because I felt like when I went in to audition for a role and I had to go to tears, I would have to use something personal. And I felt like I was airing my dirty laundry, and it just felt weird. I didn't feel in control, and I wanted more freedom. And so working with George, it was such a simple time for me. I learned all the principles of the Chekhov technique, and something clicked in me. And I was at the music center, and a bunch of friends said, "How do you do what you do? I want to do that too." We were all performing. I was trained also American Conservatory Theater, an American Center for Musical Theater, the Civic Light Opera Workshop, and we were hired to do benefits for the Dorothy Chandler. It was such a great time in my life. It was back in the 80s. I was a young woman, and I would stick a dance bag in the Dorothy Chandler stairwells, and I would coach my friends for fun, for nothing, just coach them for fun, to teach them. And one of my girlfriends called me one day and said, "Kimberly, I did everything you told me to do, and I booked the national tour of Chorus Line." Wow. And I was hooked. I started getting hooked because people were getting results. I had another friend who got, several friends in those early years got major motion pictures, leads. And so I realized one day I started a class. It was back in the 1987, August 8th. In all of my initial orientation to my work, it's very emotional. People really connect, and it's all imagination. And I'll never forget this one kid, the first class I taught, started weeping. And he goes, "I get it. He had empathy for this one character because I opened the door for him." And that was it. And I called my agents and manager and I said, "I'm ready to just be a teacher and coach. And I'm going to do that. I'm going to follow this because that's the voice inside me that says I need to do this." Plus, in those days, you had to drive to Paramount or MGM to pick up your sides. You had to get them, you had to study them, then you have to run. And there was no way to do both in those days. You had to pick a lane. And I just felt like, as an artist, and I knew eventually I would be directing and writing, as an artist, I felt that I needed to be in the scientific experimentation of what this art is, different characters besides just the ones that I've been playing, and all the different roles that I could step into as a coach for my students, which means male leads and character leads of men, and just the range of the human experience. And that's what I was chasing.
You are constantly bringing up theater pieces. We're in Hollywood, and a lot of acting classes will bring sides from scripts, from TV or film, but you seem to be bringing pure theater to study.
I do both. It depends on the student, just so you know. If I have an actor who's working all the time, then they're getting professional sides off of Handmaid's Tale all the way across the board to what was the most recent one? God, I've been giving out a lot of different kinds of, every time there's a new show, sometimes I get off sides and I give them, I have fun playing. My class is all about playing. But you were talking about a beginner. Listen, Theater is for the actor, film is the director's medium. And if an actor really wants to harness their skill, they need a blank page with just dialogue. And that's theater. And they need to work on subtext and depth. When you bring a persona to film, you've developed yourself as an artist. And an actor, even a coach, a director, a writer, it's a lifelong journey. It's not a short sprint, it's a marathon. To develop that skill, you want to bounce back and forth between great, I mean, where are all the taboos and all the experimentation is in theater. It's not in film. Film is a sure thing, what they know the audience wants and they're going to sell it. But a lot of experimentation is done in theater. And I have to tell you, most every master class actor, and I have a lot of master students. In fact, I cater to master and advanced level a lot. I do have beginning, but mostly master. And what I discover is all of them have a vocabulary of the master writers. They have an understanding of, David Mamet or John Patrick Shanley, like I was saying, or, Tennessee Williams. And in breaking in my book, the new book coming out, I do have classic works, but I also have an independent short that won a bunch of awards that I broke down with one of my students, and that session's in there too. So I have some sessions, I have like 5 sessions in there. And so my feeling is if you're beginning as an actor, it can't be about you. It can't be an ego thing. It has to be about committing to understanding the text. And once you do that, when you start getting feature film auditions, your depth is like, I mean, it is unbelievably more captivating because you understand words.
So let's talk about script analysis and how important that is for the actor.
The biggest mistake is they just pick up the sides and act, and they don't know what they're acting. And I've directed 5 projects that I've directed. And of course, a lot of them that have been pre-production that haven't gone yet. And I've done a lot of auditions. I've seen so many auditions of, original material that I've written. And how many actors do not actually read or know what's even on the page? I did a stage reading of a Civil War film that I wrote, and who knows if it'll ever get made because it's a female lead. And it was back in the early 2000s. And I remember we were auditioning everyone. I teach at the Whitefire Theater, and we were just going through, and a lot of the young men didn't even know what the Civil War was. I mean, it was interesting. So, I mean, having a grasp of history, a lot of your auditions, just Google up the history. You're going to expand, grow, and it's going to enrich your life to know a little bit about the past. And so, the first thing is when you read a script, really look at that scene and try to understand what is going on. That's the first question. What's going on here? I used to say, what the hell is going on here? What the hell's going on? Let's really look. And you start to go, okay, wait, let's read it like without any acting and just what is going on as plainly as you can so you can really get underneath the material that's there. I have a saying, and that is, if you don't carry the scene carries you. And if the scene is carrying you, you're not going to be interesting to watch. You can't depend on the scene carrying you. You have to make a choice. That's the other thing. Young actors, they need to make a choice. So how do you learn how to make a choice? You have to do script analysis. Because as you really understand what's going on the page, you begin to see that, well, there's choices of how I can play this. Now that I know what's really going on, how I can the choices I make.
So once you read the script, get an understanding of it. I loved something you said about people who are dyslexic or have ADHD, that they do well because they take their time to understand the material. And I am one who has dyslexia, so that perked me up. I was like, oh, this is good. I like this. I'm a believer that you read the script over and over and over until you understand it, and then you work on the material, which is what I heard you say, that you have to understand it before you can start to play it. In that process of understanding the script, and now you're going into the rehearsal, What are some of the things that actors need to bring into rehearsal process?
I have a saying, and that is never come unrehearsed, unprepared, or uninspired. So once you really look at the material and you're going into rehearsal, there's something that has to move you inside to connect to what you're about to do. And it doesn't have to be personal. It might be just something like you really love the relationship that's on the page, or you really connect to or relate to the character. And then, and that's what you need to do when you go into, you have to be open. You know, you're going to be collaborating. You can't be stuck on how you're going to do it. I think another thing that actors fail to realize is that every time you prepare or make a different choice, it's going to come out different. That's great. Until somebody says, keep it, allow yourself to change. Otherwise, you're going to get bored. And I think that's the worst thing is an actor gets bored with a scene because they never actually did enough deep work on it to allow the scene to take on a life of its own and evolve. So that's another aspect is you really can't get bored if you really, really keep digging in.
So you made a comment about collaborating in the rehearsal process. If the actors are collaborating, how do they keep conflict during the scene?
I don't believe that you should share with your fellow actor your objective. That's your business. That's their business. No one should be directing each other ever. If somebody's telling you how to act something, go, thank you very much, and don't do anything of what they said because that's not a collaboration. A collaboration happens in the doing of the work. You can hang out and talk about, your cat or your dog, go take a walk, talk about what you did that weekend. But when you go to do the work, it's your private information that you're holding and they're holding theirs. And you come together in character as in that scene, in that relationship and what the scenario is about. So, it's not about making nice. It's about actually doing the work.
So for the first, because there are a lot of new actors that hear a concept and then they think, oh, this is how it is. I want to be real clear with the rehearsal process because I think that's where sometimes actors get stuck. They don't know the process of rehearsing, and then they come to the classroom and they bring the work and it's different and they freak out because we rehearsed it different. That's not how it's supposed to be.
It's going to be always different. That's the first thing to know. It's always going to be different. Every environment. All of a sudden you're in the theater, it's a different environment. It's going to change. Your warm up, your prep, your moment before, every time you change that moment before, you're launching into a scene different. It's like throwing a ball. How many ways can you throw the ball? When an actor comes to my class, I have a 3-page sheet of how to rehearse a scene, step by step by step by step by step. And, you get like a training packet from me when you come train with me. So you know how to apply yourself. There are no rules, but there are boundaries. And the boundary is you don't direct another actor. You don't tell another actor what to do. You don't know. They don't know. You come in at equal footing with each other and you try to do your best and you try to live in your character. Every character lives in their own orbit. So you have to find that orbit that your character's in. And so that there's the dynamics. And then with raising the stakes or conflict in the scene, I have all these tools for that. Because you were asking about how to keep conflict, you have to play one of the tools that I give you. I have a tool called the root question, another called the fire in the communication, another playing the love, another, and these are things I built on my own with working with actors and realizing what I do.
How important is improv in the rehearsal process?
I think improv is essential. I think improv is one of the most important. I find it a, what is it? It's a way of getting there, just like using the script. It's another form of ownership of the material. So improv, I think, is phenomenal. And a lot of my students that book things, sometimes the star will improvise. And if they have that, and it's easy for them, and they're not terrified of improv, they're going to do well. They're going to book a lot.
In the rehearsal process, I saw you working with two actors and you had them sit back to back and do the lines. And I thought that was brilliant because you can't see each other, yet you have to get the material out. And you had them do it a couple of times. And each time they did it, it was not only different, but the energy shifted. There, you went from saying the lines to all of a sudden there was a softness, there was an openness, there was giving. And so, where did you get that exercise from?
I don't know. I can't say I came up with that one. I don't know where it came from, but I've been doing
Great.
it. Did it as when I was an actor. I remember when I was an actor, I acted for years. I was on General Hospital. I did a bunch of horror movies. And I remember saying to one of my actors, hey, let's just sit back to back. I don't remember. I don't know if it's mine though. A brilliant teacher along the way probably gave it to me.
Yeah, that's a wonderful, I thought that was what an exercise. What a lovely exercise to kind of calm you, get you out of your nerves, and also feel the presence of the other person.
Absolutely. I honestly, Lydia, I think it's too arrogant to claim such a simple exercise anyway. It's my stuff that I've created is a little it's obvious I created it. It's on the page and how it happened. And I talk about how I came to this tool and why it's such an important tool. I have certain ones that people I continuously get emails about. I used it, So yeah, I needed it. I needed solutions. That's how I came up with them.
I want to talk about a couple of other things that new actors do that gets them in trouble and keeps them from getting work or getting representation. What are three things that you see new actors get into trouble with all the time? Like the top three.
Well, the first one is, which blows my mind, is when they think that they're going to get a callback from their first audition and they're so devastated, or their second or the third, or they've gone maybe out 3 or 4 5 times and they're not getting a response, and they're just, they don't get that it's a numbers game. They don't know. A lot of them are green too. They're just not ready. And so this is the second problem. And that is, so that's the first one. But second one is they just haven't trained. They just have not trained. And you cannot drive a car without training. But it seems like acting is like life, and like it should be easy, and you should be able to just do it. No, you get so nervous. And the second thing is when you're on set, you really have to deliver, and it can be overwhelming. I've seen newbie actors that have come to me, trained for years or whatever, get their first audition, and they're in so much ecstasy that they can't calm down to really focus too. So there's that other third problem, which is being able to know that being so happy can mess you up. And you have to be focused enough to play the conflict, the integrity of what it is that the character's going through. I mean, I can name it. I have a new actor I don't want to say who, he's a star. And I looked at his first, he's done it, he's worked a bit. I looked at his first movie. I go, oh, you were in Euphoria all the way through this. You're not playing the conflict. And he goes, yeah, it's a problem. I need help. I said, yeah, we need to discipline that, because the most important thing for an actor is there's 5 things you control: your body, your face, your emotions. Your body, your face, your voice, your emotions, and where your mind is. Where your mind is. And you have to be in the thinking and the feeling of the role. So that's a really important aspect as well. So you can't do that without a lot of concentration exercises, so that when you get on set, you have focus and concentration. Your power is directly related to your ability to focus and concentrate. Your emotions are directly related to your ability to imagine, because you have to sustain the emotion. Otherwise, it dissipates. And that's a problem sometimes using personal triggers, is then you're done and you're exhausted. How are you going to keep with each, you might be the last. I'll never forget, when I was a young actor, because I wasn't the star in a project, was the last close-up at 4 p.m. in the afternoon. We were called at like 5 in the morning. and I had to come up with the emotion. And you wait all those hours. Well, you better be working on your imagination. You better understand how to really trigger yourself so you're prepared to really connect, because that might be the best scene of your life if you're there for it, that will give you more work. And you need every job you do to count, even if it's a freebie. Every job, bring 100%. It doesn't matter. If you're an actor, you bring your 100% to everything you do.
It reminds me of you made a comment about actors who fall in love on set and then
Oh
can't
yeah.
come with the conflict. And I agree. I think that when you get to work, you have to put yourself in a bubble. It's kind of like even with auditions. I mean, now it's self-tape, but when we were going out
Right.
to the studios and to the casting offices, you had to figure out how to protect yourself from when you walked in until you got out of the audition room. That you could, I had to learn that the hard way. You got in those lobbies, and then you start chatting, and you get in there and you have nothing to give. You have nothing. And so my question to you is, what are a couple of tools that you offer that an actor can say, you know what, no matter where I am, I can grab on this tool and get what I need to get?
This is a quick hack for everyone, and that is music, headphones. Have pick like 4 or 5 songs for your character, put it on your playlist, put your headset in, and just when you're there, just keep listening to the music. I directed it was a big budget film called Rain, and it went to the festivals. It was Oscar qualified. And the whole time, because there's so much going on when you're a director, and I listened in my head because couldn't have headphones, but I was constantly listening to a certain song that inspired me to stay focused. And you can put that song in the back of your mind, and it inspired me so that I was like, of course, directing is just, honestly, it's like the greatest joy. So it's easy to be focused in a way, but you can't remember, you can't forget anything. You have to remember everything when you're directing, because you can't just look at your notes all the time. It has to be in you of what needs to happen in each scene, and what continuity, everything. So hopefully music, for every actor out there, that is a wonderful, music is so powerful, and it can keep you focused. A young actor that comes to me that I've maybe just done a couple sessions with, I'll send them to set with a playlist.
I love that. Okay. New actors understanding genres. So they're learning script analysis. How do you teach them genres?
Genre, there's 2 basic categories, of course, but there's more. I mean, obviously there's Shakespearean acting, which is the key of tragedy, which is a genre. And tragedy doesn't mean that it's tragic, though. In our modern day tragedies, that's a whole nother, I can go talk forever about genre. Let me not talk about that. But then there's comedy and drama, basically. Those are the 2 genres that actors have to be expert at. And I'd be honest with you in that most people that do so much drama want to learn comedy just to have be lighter. And then of course comedy actors need to learn drama. So they're just completely 2 different categories. And I teach both. I love both. I direct a lot of theater. When I directed theater, I mostly directed comedy. And in film, because I was advised by my mentors to do series projects, so I'm a series director. But I think I've done a lot of series films, but I am going to be going back to like kind of a dramedy thing, because I just love comedy so much.
When they get the sides, how do they know if it's a comedy or if it's a drama?
You ask. You have to ask, because you'd be amazed that somebody will say this is supposed to be a drama, and you're looking at it and it seems so funny. And it's a different approach. Comedy is a different approach than drama. I know a lot of people say comedy is just drama faster, but it's not true. There is but it can be true in some ways. I hate to invalidate somebody's perception of that, because if it's a dramedy, then it's combo. So, but I have 16 guideposts to comedy, and they're fun. They're even down to timing, and I teach timing. And then drama is about depth and really slowing down and taking your time, like comedy's fast. Drama, which I get a lot of actors coming to me to help them with getting deeper, bringing out their essence. And I have another book in the works that I've written, but I got to rewrite, about essence work, and it's about 16 journeys. That every character, there's only 16 basic journeys, and here I'm talking about everything but the book that's coming out, which is Acting with Impact, which is the second edition, which is I'm so proud of. But that is all about depth too.
Okay, so let's talk about Acting with Impact. What are some of the core principles of that book?
I have a saying, and that is, the bravest and most important work is the inner work of the artist. This is all about your internal life. The first half is all about emotion. The second half is all about objective work and intentions. How to play an intention, how to heighten it, how to get the stakes up. I have tools on raising the stakes and how to really play into the authenticity of the role. My subheading is about freedom, how to find your freedom and your authenticity. And so this book it's really a foundational book for all levels. Masters should read it too. My master students know all of these and have trained in all of this as well. So I feel like I'm a rebel, Lydia, because when I was a young actor, the only people that would talk about emotion was sense memory. And then everybody would say, you can't act in emotion. Don't talk about emotion. And so I would end up on set and everything they asked of me was emotion. So they weren't really preparing me for my job qualifications. I was not prepared except doing memory work. And it was very terrifying to be an ingenue, young leading woman, and in this confusion of my classes say don't talk emotion, my directors say everything about emotion. So I went on this mad search, and George liberated me in that way, but he did not teach me this really. I developed it. I developed the emotional content work, which is all imagination work for those. And all of my Strasberg actors find that it's a very, very helpful tool and takes them even further. In fact, the woman who wrote my forward, Joy Tanner, I don't know if you know who she is. She's a very successful actress.
I watched your interview with her. I thought it was excellent.
She told me that what I taught her made it easier, and she felt like, she uses it to this day.
She also said that your process is heart-based, which I thought that was quite a compliment.
It is hard. Thank you so much. I have a tool in this book coming out now called Love is a Motivator. It's a new tool. And it's about basically how we all really are either hungry for love or recovering from its absence. And so the dark characters are in the loss of love. Love has been stolen from them. And the lighter characters are all motivated by love. Everything's motivated by love. Everything. But I have also a definition of love that will make sense for that, because everybody's probably I'm sure some people assume that love is just cozy and joyful and sweet. But I think love is a deeper thing. And love is about the desire to protect something that is precious to them. And love is expressed through protection. So, and that's how we own a character too. You have to love the character. That's the other tool in the book called Playing the Love. And it's how to find the love and play it. Because it's very easy to judge a character. It's very easy to be at a distance. And what I've discovered is in trying to be on top of your skill or on top of the role, because there's so much fear when you book something or you're up for something, you tend to judge it. It's just natural. like we judge anyone will judge people.
Mhm.
And the first step is judgment. And then you try to push those judgments away, go, no, I'm not going to judge it. But then how do you really get rid of those judgments? They're there, they're floating around. So I have an exercise in uncovering and getting to the wound so that you have enormous empathy for the role. And that's Playing the Love. It's called Playing the Love, Uncovering the Wound.
I'm going to shift a little now. The pandemic shut us all up, and everything we do now is online. All the
Yes.
auditions are online. Most of the callbacks are online. If you're lucky, you may get to go in before you book the job. As a teacher, what are some of the tools that you've learned because of having to shift from doing live classes to doing Zoom classes? And you mentioned before we got on camera that you sometimes had done classes 8 hours a day on Zoom.
Yes.
So what are, I want to start with the negatives first. What are some of the negatives that you learned about actors' work doing those Zoom classes?
I have a saying, and that is not one negative thought. I only think of the advantages of Zoom. I don't lean into the disadvantages or the wrong thing about it. My students were booking on camera videos before the pandemic. I mean, we raised the batting average of all, I raised the batting average of all my students on camera work auditions. I think that it's a tremendous advantage because an actor, and this is what happens with my students, is they'll go on tape and they'll send it to me and I'll give them notes and send it back and they'll work with me. I'll keep looking at, send it back, send it back, send it back with notes. By the time they're going to book it, you know? So we go back and forth sometimes with my students with making sure it's up to par. I'm a coach. You know, I don't think of myself as a teacher with a million teachers under me. I tried that once. I didn't like it. It didn't resonate. I'm an artist first. So I just am a coach and that's it. I'm the coach. No other teachers under me. I don't think it'll ever change. And it's just the way I am. And so my feeling is there's so many advantages. How bad do you want it? Because if you want it bad, so what? You have to get a few lights up. So what? You're in front of your camera. If there's passion there, it can come right through, penetrates right through that lens, man. You know, and then you have to make a strong choice. Biggest problem I found is on camera auditions, actors are afraid. They look at their face, they, oh my gosh, there's so much going on. I gotta, you know, and yeah, you have to silence all of the, you know, faces you might be making, or your eyes might be twitchy or whatever. But once you get focused, it's very, very powerful. But many, many, many actors will make no choice at all. And I immediately go, where's the choice? Because making no choice is a choice. And that's a problem because it's going to be mediocre. It will not get attention. And this is the other thing that I think actors don't know. And I'm going to give it to you, Lydia, that acting is about fail, 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 success. Fail, 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 success. Even in class, you got to fail a lot to be brilliant. You're not going to be brilliant and that brilliant. That's not how life is.
Mm-hmm.
Failure is something you go, okay, it's okay to do bad work. It's okay to do good work. Both are valuable. Both will give me a lesson. Because the longevity of your acting is really about the lessons along the way that you learn as you enrich your life because you get to live as an artist.
You made a comment. I heard it. You make a comment. What makes an actor great is their unexpected choice. That their choices are what makes them great.
Yes.
So in the choosing of it, to raise the stakes, to go for broke, to come in that you kind of have to come in like a gladiator almost in making choices, because most actors, 90% of the actors that go up for a part are making the same choice. They read the material, they give the same
Right.
rhythm, same, there's nothing different. They play the lines. So when you are doing a self-tape, how do you encourage your students not to play the lines? And because maybe they get the material 24 hours in advance, so they really have to put in a certain amount of work. What do you encourage them to focus on? You only have this much time. You got to put it up. You got to get your lights up. You got to get the background up. You got to do all this. You have to be the filmmaker and now get in front of the camera and give me the material.
I want actors to get over that idea that they're the filmmaker, because they're not. Filmmaking is much more involved. Putting a damn camera in front of yourself and some lights is not that big of a deal. Getting a background, so what? Once it's done, it's done. You don't think about it anymore. So you gotta, let go of that. That's just negative. It's really positive that you get to keep practicing until you like it. And when in our day, you went in, you got one shot, you leave, and that's it. So I think, honestly, video auditions are a blessing. They are an absolute blessing. It is at your advantage. Your advantage. Okay, and then the one thing that I do in my class is I don't let people just play the lines, read the lines, act the lines. So I call that's superficial acting. It's one note. You are a cliche. If you're acting out words, you are a cliche. There's more going on down here. Even with you and me talking, there's a lot going on. And if you just looked at our words and read it, you might have a different experience than when you see us speaking together, because we have subtext, because we're alive. So to me, we want to get away from AI, artificial intelligence. So you don't want to be robotic and act out words. You want to have some depth. So the first thing, it goes back to I have a saying, and that is the process is the product. The process is the product.
I actually wrote that down. The process is the product.
Joy had forgotten that I was the first one that said it to her. I've been saying it since my beginning. The process is the product. You have to have a good process. You have to have your technique. You have to love it. You have to come to your class. I think everyone comes to class a little afraid, because what the hell? What's going to happen?
Can we go back to love it? Can we just put the tent there for a minute? To love the process. That not enough is mentioned about loving the process, loving that you have an audition, loving that you booked a job, loving that it was difficult. Can you just...
If you're a cook, I'm not a cook, but I'm going to talk about it this way, because I've been learning to cook since the pandemic, and now I'm making all my own food, but it's not as good as if it was at a restaurant.
But it will be. But it will be, Kimberly.
Someday.
It will be.
As good as my mother used to bake, and she taught me a bit about that. But other than that, anyway, long story short, you're right, it will be. When you're learning to cook, it's a process. And if you don't enjoy the process, the food won't be that good in a way. If it's like you're just you can taste it. Same with acting. It's the same. It's everything. Enjoy your processes in life. You have a lot of processes. If you take baths and you don't make it a ritual, then it's not going to be as pleasurable. And if you got up every morning and you have a ritual in the morning, that makes the day more pleasurable. That's the process. Life is a process.
You just said something that I think is gold. Making your rituals, making your daily activities a ritual, so you can luxuriate in it. When you said the bath, it sparked something in me, because for a long time I would get in the bath, be in there 5 minutes, okay, I'm done. And last year I had hurt my back, and I had to take these baths that were like 20 minutes. So I had to learn how to enjoy being in the water for 20 minutes and just kind of chill, especially if you're somebody who's always rushing to do things. It's a hard thing, but I think that is such a metaphor for life, is that to take your time, going back to the comment you made about script analysis and reading it slowly, taking your time. And so this is an aha moment for me right now. That's why I'm sharing this.
Awesome.
It is to just take your time with it, because there's a birthing that's going on. You're
Yes, there
birthing
is.
something. And as a mom, as someone who has birthed a child, it takes time for that baby to come. That, the doctors work really hard to get you to keep that baby in for 9 months. They
That's
want you
right.
to have that baby come to term. And acting is the same thing. So go ahead. You said it, and it was like my brain went pooh.
I'm so happy.
Like the Starburst candy. It's like, oh my God, that is so good.
My feeling is there's nowhere to get in life. I'm an older lady, and I'll tell you, there's nowhere to get. And you think that life is going to start one day? It's now. Start it now. It's happening. So if it's happening, then you better two things, not one negative thought. Not one negative thought. That means you have to stay positive about everything. That means you have to spin anything that happens to you into a positive. I mean, horrific things can happen. Trust me, when you're my age, lots of shit can happen. But what you got to do is take it and go, well, what can I gain from this? Well, how can I learn from it? How am I actually a better person that it happened? How am I more empathetic in the world? How do I relate more to others because of it? How am I more human? And then to know that since life is a process, acting is a process too. It's a life, it's a way of living life. Everything that happens to you will be used for your work. And so when you go to approach a scene, you have to sit down with it and hold that scene and enjoy that scene and look at it and go, I get to do this. Gosh, we're so lucky.
It's the gratitude factor, right? So it's not just the positivity, but it's the gratitude, because sometimes you don't see anything positive, but if you go, I'm really grateful for this moment. I am so grateful. It shifts in a different way than, because sometimes positivity gets a bad rap. It's like, oh yeah, she's being positive. But if you talk about being grateful, today I had an audition. I haven't had an audition in months. I'm grateful I got called in today. I got to do what I love doing. And that, I think that's the big thing in the room, is bringing the gratitude, not the entitlement. Because I think sometimes as actors we bring that entitlement, or we bring I don't know what to expect. So if you don't know what to expect, you stop yourself. You want to know what's down the road, and life isn't like that. Life doesn't tell us what's down the road. We have to create the road we want to get to. But in that place of just gratitude, the adventure starts. It's an adventure. Acting should always be an adventure. At least that's how I hear you. I hear you
Absolutely.
talking about adventure, being
Mm-hmm.
because fearlessness requires adventure, or I should say, adventure requires fearlessness. You got to be fearless in order to say, I'm going to go on this adventure. And that's what acting is. It's an adventure.
In that regard, in the importance of the work, I don't like actors that just wait for auditions to do their work. I didn't. I mean, I remember when I was an actor, I just loved the art so much. I think I had 11 monologues, always rotating in my mind, and I could say them. Some of them were really funny. I could use them at a party. Um, I think you should always be working on it because it's your craft. It's like a writer, a musician. One of my students dated Eric Clapton way back in the day in the 90s, and he said and this isn't his quote though. I don't remember who said it. It was a famous spiritual leader, but he said, "Discipline is remembering what you want." And Eric Clapton every day would practice his scales on his guitar. Actors need to practice as well. we need to practice every single day our art. Like as a writer, my gosh, I've written this book and I write every day anyway. I have two screenplays that I think one of them is going to go. I'm also writing my next books. Um, I think that whatever you love to do it a lot and you'll love your life. Get into it.
Well,
The results don't make you happy. Let me
I'm
tell you,
gonna
I've won a
I'm
lot of
gonna
awards.
say I'm gonna say something. Back in the
Okay.
day, we didn't have all the distractions, right? So we didn't have the phone, we didn't have all
Right.
these other things. So, and we had the library, we had Samuel French. We would go and get our plays, and it was a different time, and we were taught differently. Today, because of influencers and YouTube and the videos, people don't realize that you have to work at your craft. They just think you show up and then it's done.
Let me talk about results. Results are not all what they're all cracked up to be. Every performer that has had uber success after they win that award, I've won awards. The next day you wake up and you have to climb the mountain again. And it's almost like, oh, it happened. I know it's really rich to win awards. I loved awards. I love awards. I'm proud of them. I brag about my awards, especially my coaching awards. But I, so I'm one to
So
talk.
let's stop for a second and let's talk about your coaching awards. You were voted number one on Backstage for one of the top coaches in Los Angeles. So let's just share. Let's just do a little brag, why don't we? I love bragging. So share with us some of the awards that you've gotten.
I've gotten, okay. You can look them up because I mentioned it, that's good enough. But I will say that I was so blown away that I didn't believe it when they called me and told me I'd won. I'd won that 100 years ago, 2007, 2008, 2009. So they came and they went to my studio. I had a studio at the time. They shot pictures, they interviewed me. I still didn't believe it, Lydia. I did not believe it. I didn't believe it. This is how, because I don't believe it because I know so many great coaches too. Anyway, long story longer, because I taught at Screen Actors Guild and I used to run the audition lessons there. And then I brought in teachers and I also ran for the love of the art. And I brought in all the very big teachers, including myself. And so long story short, I didn't believe it until it actually was in the paper. And when it was in the paper, I went, oh, it really is true.
It's all right. It's all right.
It's like that. Maybe that's our generation, another 100 years ago when we didn't believe stuff, until it happened. Because I think it's because when I auditioned at UCLA, I was up for West Side Story, and I was sure I was gonna. The director pulled me aside and said, "I have a role. You're gonna be in the." And I thought for sure I was in. And then I looked up at the boards and my name wasn't there. And I was so devastated. I was 17 years old and I thought for sure I would be in West Side Story. It was one of my favorite musicals. And I wasn't. And that was my big lesson that there are no guarantees. And even when people tell you something, it may or may not happen, that you only have yourself and you have you to love on you and to know your value and to know that you have something special. You have to know that inside yourself. And if you don't know it, you've got to find it. And you got to think, well, what is my special thing? What is that? I work with actors on this a lot. I'm working on actually a singer-songwriter with that right now. I'm really proud of. It's going to be huge. And he has a lot of backing and it's just really fun to be on this ride. But I think that this is something that we are the misfits, the kind of ragtag people that are kind of outcasts, us actors and writers and producers, and not necessarily producers, but definitely directors. And that we are misfits, that we are the kind of, you have to find that voice and you will.
So is that something you start doing as soon as you know you want to act, to start finding that voice, to start building that voice?
I think it can go in any direction. Like I think about, Jim Carrey, for example. He's so extraordinary. He found it in himself. But some actors, I think the best way is to have a range of understanding of acting and theater, film, to know all the films, to know as many TV shows, to really do your research. Because the more research you do, and also to know theater, because you have to fill yourself up with the craft itself, so you have something to draw from. And if there's something that like inspired you to want to act, great movie, see that genre, see all of the films in that genre. It will keep you going. And you have to educate yourself, because you can, if you only have you and that's it and what you've seen, then you're very limited. If you've only seen your life, your day is the same, you do the same stuff, you talk to the same people, you're not getting enough input. So you need to reach beyond the safe little tribal experiences of your life, to go beyond that, to actually reach and touch anyone. What is it? The hero's journey leaves the tribe to find, on a quest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Eventually comes back to the tribe enlightened.
Now we're going to go back to doing self-tapes. If you could only give 4 points to an actor of what they need to bring in that self-tape, when they get in front of that camera, they hit the record button, what are the 4 things they must have?
You're so cute. You go back. Okay, I mentioned a couple things. First of all, have a grasp of the role and the character. Have a grasp of the genre. Because if you're playing in the key of sitcom and it's actually, Killers of the Flower Moon, you're not going to get a call back. And so, that's a historical piece. You'll have to get some sense of the layers, etc. So those 2 things: know what the material is, know what the genres that you're playing. 3, don't move all over the room. I see actors walking on their own lines. If there was a Foley artist there and they were actually capturing that, we would have to hear. You don't want to step on your words. So you have to be still. You have to stand still. You have to light yourself really well. Light yourself like a star. So I tell all my students, make sure there's bright lights on you. I have a saying, and that is, you already are a star. You come in like you're a star, not the arrogance, but the sense of confidence and the sense of an inner knowing of your own truths and your own the integrity that lives within you, radiated. You have that. You light yourself like a star. You're undeniable that you have something of value to give. You are contributing to the production. You have to think of it that way. It's not about me getting, it's about you giving. It's about giving, contributing your gift. And that means that your gift is what you've developed. If you haven't developed the gift, then it's very raw, then you're counting on being cute or pretty. And I always say that you're not beautiful for your looks. You're beautiful for your soul. What's in there is the beauty in you.
Serving is very important as an actor. I think that is something that when we are acting in a production, we are serving the piece. We're serving the other actors. We're serving the director. We're serving the producers. We are serving. And I think those are the actors who we remember, because it's not about them. It's about what they're going for. It's about how they're seeking relationship with those other characters. They're seeking, they're trying to, and you see it when an actor is working in that space of a servant. You can feel it. They're really there with the other person. When the actor is all about me, then it falls flat. And so in the self-tape, and for new actors, it can be very scary and very nerve-wracking. You talked about contributing, you talked about knowing the material, you talked about lighting yourself well, but they also have to know what happened before they started the scene.
Well, the moment before, that's all acting technique. You have to have your acting technique.
But sometimes new actors don't know that. They don't know that they just got the sides. They're going to.
Then they have to go train. They have to training. And also I highly suggest connect with your teacher. Don't just study with the flavor of the month. Seek out somebody who will really deliver something that will speak to you and help you bring your art out. Because I remember being in acting class once where there was no foundation taught. And I was just sitting there and everybody was there was two actors up and they were brilliant. And then everybody would mimic them. You get up and they try to mimic or take on the great attributes that they did instead of finding it within themselves. You cannot imitate other people. Acting isn't, you can't train, it's not learned through osmosis. It's actually learned through understanding the foundational principles of the work, grasping them and practicing them on your own. I have solo rehearsals where I'll teach a student how to work on their own without another actor to develop their own identity and understanding. The other thing to talking about contributing is you're serving the character. The character, only you can stand for that character. And all their bad behavior or whatever it is they're doing in the scene, that's the identity of the character you're serving. So you set your ego aside for the character's ego. And you play that. Their preferences, their likes and dislikes. If you were to look at a scene and you're going to say, okay, what are the basic things I should know in the scene? You always start with, where is the character coming from? And I have a whole long, wonderful, not long, but in my second book, I talk about scene structure. Every scene has a change in it. There's always a climax that all of a sudden information is given, something happens, and there's a change. If you're not having a change in your scene, if it's all the same all the way to the end, then you've missed a lot of the underpinnings of the scene. So you want to study that scene to understand, well, what happens in the scene and what's the change? Simple, the objective. What's the want? I have 3 videos on that on my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is just my name, and it's spelled it's the Austrian spelling. It's Kimberly, Jentzen, and it's under my name.
And it's very good. I watched them. They're very good.
Thank you. I can tell you really did your homework because you did.
I wanted to come here ready for you. I wanted
so sweet.
Not only give you the platform, but also to highlight your gift, right? You talk about authenticity. So what better way to get to know your authenticity than to watch all that incredible work that you have online? I mean, because you really go in. I love those little bits that they're like little bite-sized teachings that you give, and you could stay there for a couple of days, which I did, and just
there's like 80 videos,
but they're all great. And what I loved about it is the building that every video builds. If you just put that one video on, that playlist is going to keep going and going and going. And so there is so much to glean from it. That I wanted to make sure that I honored you properly by watching what you have to show. So for me,
thank you so much.
It's important for me to know who I'm talking to, because otherwise, what's the point? At least for me. Anyway, I agree. You talk about listening, the art of listening, and how important that is for the actor. When I was a young actor, it was so important for me to get my line out that I wasn't listening to your line because I wanted my line. And what a valuable tool listening is, not just in acting, but in life, right?
Yeah, it's wonderful. I have a saying, and that is, we're on the brink. Present time is on the brink of the future. We have no idea what's going to happen in the next moment. Absolutely no idea. Anything could happen in the next moment. So it's so listening is that's what the actor is doing. They're on that moment, waiting, listening, because they have no idea. You have to try to forget what happens in the scene. Just know your words. Because if you forget what's going to happen, then you have no idea. Then it leads a lot of spontaneity in your acting, which I believe is the key to creativity, is spontaneity.
I want to talk about your classes. If we could take them one at a time, like if someone new comes to you, what would be the class that you recommend they take?
It depends on where they're at in their skill. I have right now a mixed level class at the Whitefire Theater, mostly more advanced, but I do take beginners in there. And if somebody's really a beginner, I might want to do a few sessions with them prior to coming in, teach them how to do the imagination, make sure they're really serious about training.
So if they do 2 sessions with you, how long are each session? Is it an hour session?
First one is about an hour and 15, and the second one is about an hour, or maybe an hour and 15. If I'm prepping you for class, sometimes I give a little more because I want to make sure you're extremely prepared. But I've let actors right into that class straight away. And and that's my main class. And then I have 2 Zoom classes, a Tuesday morning Zoom, which is a master class that's starting in September at 11 a.m. And then I have a intermediate class on Zoom on Wednesdays at 4 p.m. And these are all Pacific time.
And how long do they go?
4 hours.
Oh, okay. And do you take like little breaks?
You know what? Be honest with you. At the Whitefire Theater, okay, if it's a smaller group, then it might be 3 hours. It might be even 2.5 if it's a smaller group. Depends on how many are there that day. But if it's a full group, it's going to be 4. People are so turned on in my class. We only take one break in the middle for 10 minutes. Everybody participates in every aspect of it. I don't let people like go away after they do their scene. No, they stay and they're active. Everybody is invested in each other.
Why is that so important to you that they stay while other people are working?
Well, it's called if you can learn from your fellow actors. When you're up, I always feel like you're like when an actor's up, it's like they're under the I'm making a funny gesture because I don't, it might not play on this Zoom call, but it's almost like you're being crucified. When you're an actor and you're doing the scene, you're going to get so many notes from me, and I'm nothing critical. It's never personal, but it's just what's not in, what's not, what tool you're using. We're going to talk about what tools you're working, what's not working, what is working, how to make it work better. I'm going to give you a bunch of steps of what to do, how to practice it, what to do on your own, how to connect. A lot of actors don't believe that they actually have the capacity to focus and do it, but you do. You do. And if you have any issues, you can always text me and I'll text you back information. I'm very easy to get a hold of with my students. I make sure that you're on your road. Anyway, it's mind-blowing when you're up. I mean, it's like, how can you even function and think clearly? Because you're on the defensive sometimes, trying to be willing, trying to listen, but it's hard. When you watch other actors in that same position, you learn from them. You learn how to take notes. You don't learn how to take notes by just thinking I'll be better next time. You learn by watching people actually do it well. And so it's important to be in the room. You're contributing to their performance. They're contributing to your performance. The observer influences the scene. And if the observers aren't there, then the scene doesn't have the same connection that it would with the observers there. So we need everybody. And I also want to, I love to, people are pretty, what is the word? Committed to my group, even on Zoom, every group. And this is the good news. Because you're invested in everybody's growth, everybody's invested, then people start becoming really close. And I've had students that are successfully working, like one of my actresses that just started in her 4th film just recently. She's a big up and comer. She's gotten 3 of my students work on her projects because she loves them, and something came up and she said, why don't you blah, blah, blah. And before you know it, they're on the set. So it's not only heartfelt good human character building, but it's very, very career savvy to be connecting, because I believe acting isn't about connections. It can be about connections, but it's more about how you connect. It's about how you connect. And if you connect with a detachment, it's going to show up in every relationship you have in the business. But if you show up with a bit of an attachment to your fellow actors, then that's going to rub off on, everything in class is a practice for your career, even your relationships. And it's easier to have relationships if you know how to have relationships.
I'll say this, having been in a lot of acting classes, the great acting classes are the classes where you become a family.
Yes.
Where when you leave that class, whenever it is, you still are connected to those people. They have become your family, because acting is so personal, and you become so vulnerable in the class that when you feel, and this is a testimony to you, when the student feels loved, supported, encouraged, and protected, they will fight for that class, and all the students together fight for that class. And I think that's what actors need to know, is that it's not about a class hopping. I'm gonna check out this teacher, then I'm gonna go to this teacher. No, you go where it is calling you, so that you can build community, that you can build a family, that you come alongside each other in life, because as you stated in the beginning of this conversation, that it is about the longevity. It's about the longevity. It is about sustaining in this business and not quitting. And if you do the work, everybody moves up. It is just how it is. You might have started
So true.
with an actor, and then you're all together. Now you're all, maybe they're not acting anymore, but maybe they're a director, or maybe they're a producer, or maybe they're the executive at that studio, and they will come and say, Kimberly, I need you right now. I got a script. I need you to direct it, because I don't trust anybody else with this piece but you. That's what acting classes. If you stay in them and you let the teacher, how would I put this? You let that teacher affect you in a way that allows you to bring your best self to the table, to the camera, to the stage. Magic. That's where the magic is.
Absolutely. It's yeah, you can I've had actors way back, I used to do free classes. I don't do them anymore, but I every now and then I might open it to audits or whatever, but they come once maybe and they think they're just going to grab something, and they're in a scarcity mentality where, oh, I don't have the money. Well, I got to tell you, I've had actors that really want it find a way. And I always say, make a miracle happen. Don't live in scarcity. Education, to educate yourself is an investment. And I was raised, my family, they were really big on education. So I always felt like I was grateful that I learned that, to, go to UCLA, to make sure that have more to offer than just,
Well, I think yes, and I'm going to add to this, because I think this is really important, that if you want to be a great actor, you've got to study with great people, and that is not cheap. So you have to have other income coming in to support you, so you can take those classes, so you can get better. The only way you're going to get better is to be in class. And the only way you're going to be the star you want to be is to have the right teacher touching you, have the right teacher encouraging you, have the right teacher lifting you up, and addressing those parts of you that are sloppy, or not, that you're not really showing your best. And you only get that. I don't think you can get that in a month's class or 6 weeks of training. I think it takes time to learn the person. The teacher's got to learn who you are, learn your
That's so
quirks.
true.
It's not a 6 weeks course. It takes years. I studied with Roy London for 9 years.
I love Roy London. He was one of the most generous teachers that I worked with
Yes,
as
he
well, way
was.
back.
And I mean, I studied with Stella Adler. I studied with Jose Quintero. I studied with a lot of people, but Roy was the one who pulled out of me, who knew me, who was able to say, okay, this is what you have to do. And you need that teacher. You need that, not any teacher. You need that teacher who sees you, who gets you, who knows, oh, I know what you need right now. You know how you are always saying, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, so let's find a piece of material that you can't say yeah in any any variation. You need to come to the table to bring your authentic self without your bad behavior or your habits. And that's what a great teacher does. They are able to say to you, you blink too much. Every time you're saying something that you don't believe, you start blinking. So how can we get you to believe what you are saying?
That's a really great note, by the way. I agree 100 times with you, because an actor, when they first start out, it's inappropriate to overstep and give everything out. You have to wait and see what falls away as you develop them, and what, if because a lot of bad habits will fall away when they start learning how to actually do function in their I believe that everything leads back to the foundation. If you don't have your foundation, there's a weakness there. And I bring it in regularly. I'll bring in, my classes work like this. There's a visualization exercise at the top, a warm-up. Then there's a tool I teach. Every week I teach a different tool for fun. It's just fun. Then you get up on your feet and we do improvisation with that tool. And we'll do improv scenes. And sometimes I just work on improv, because a lot of actors aren't very good at improv. And basic rule of improv is yes and. You have to say yes and move through, as opposed to denying anything that another person says. You agree with them. You can agree with a disagreement. You can have a conflict and disagree. Anyway, and then after improv, there's a break. And so that whole little first part of class, it takes about 45 minutes. And then there's a break. Sometimes it takes longer, sometimes it's an hour. And then there's scenes, monologues, cold reading, audition technique, whatever people. And so I tend to get a lot of scene work because I'm a longtime teacher, and people know that. I always have a saying, and that is, a scene or an audition is an affair. A scene is a relationship. Mm-hmm. Affairs are easy, relationships are hard, because to develop a character over a few weeks and to bring it back and keep getting it stronger or finding new things in it, it takes work. An affair, an affair is an affair. It's where you're at. Wherever you're at, let's make you shine. So to really develop and get that range going, scene work is really important. But then I'll do auditions. Like if somebody's up for an audition that week, anyone in my class can bring an audition to class, and I'll give them a session in class. And we do it, and everybody watches. Nobody can talk but me, because I don't want anybody to influence them. And then we just send, huge amount of love and energy to that actor for that audition, so that they feel like they have backing behind them and they're not all by themselves.
And that is the family you might not have had at home.
Absolutely.
That is the importance of acting class, is that it gives you the family you might not have had at home, the support. You might have had a very dysfunctional family. Most of us actors come from dysfunction. And where we get love and we get support is in an acting class. Not a crazy acting class. I mean, let me just phrase that, because there's some crazy acting classes.
I've heard some crazy stuff going on.
Yeah.
If it doesn't make sense, you guys, ask the teacher and to explain why. And if you're not allowed to be told why, then they're not necessarily the healthiest.
Yeah, and I would add to that, walk in with some common sense. If you feel like you are in danger in that class, physically, emotionally, don't go back to that class. If your instinct starts saying there's a problem, if you are seeing flags, please run, leave the class during break and don't come back. Just leave, just because not every acting class is a safe space. And as an actor, you need that safe space to grow. That's the only way you're going to grow, is in that safe space.
One thing though, I have to do an addendum to that. Actors sometimes, because my classes can get really deep, not personally deep, but just deep in the work. Actors can get triggered by characters, and they have to learn how to manage their own personal triggers. So you have to be able to make a distinction between, is it the class or is it me? Because if you're open in my room and you actually are real with me and you tell me, hey, it's triggering me, I'll go, oh, great, let's set that aside. We'll wait until you're ready for that. Let's move on to a different role. You know, you have to be in communication with your coach, because sometimes also the truth can be triggering, or something effective can be triggering. And I've had to talk, to actors in a very, the best of my ability to help them release the fears that they have, to make them feel safe. But that's why therapy is really good for actors too.
Yes. Well, Roy was the first acting teacher that I ever heard say to the students, I think therapy would be good for you. The first one, but it is necessary. I think every actor should have therapy, just for their own self.
Just to understand themselves. It's such a wonderful, wonderful thing.
And a good therapist. Make sure that the therapist
right.
Somebody good. So it does help. So in your acting classes, how long have you noticed that the student, if they come to you in September, do they start getting a handle on everything by December or February? Do you notice that there's a pattern with your students? Like, if you come and you commit and you do the work, within 4 months you're gonna have a good grasp of it, or what do you see?
Well, I cannot gauge the weekly class, but I can tell you that when I used to do the cold reading weekend intensives, which was all foundation teaching, on a Friday night, everybody would start a certain place because I do a solo audition, solo piece with each actor. By Sunday night, it was mind-blowing how much improvement there was. I mean, mind-blowing. I would love to go back to that. Those were long days. I would be with my students for 10 hours a day. I mean, I loved teaching them. But, with the pandemic, everything changed. I did my last intensive, I think March of 2020.
Wow.
But yeah, ever since the pandemic, everything's changed so much that it just doesn't, the nature of actors telling them I'm doing an intensive, it doesn't resonate like just my ongoing classes. So I just teach ongoing now. I may come back to it though.
Right now, you have Zoom classes. Do you have live classes that actors can come?
At the White Fire Theater on Monday nights. Yeah.
Okay, Monday nights?
Yeah, Monday nights, the White Fire Theater. That's my class.
In the Valley, people, in Sherman Oaks. That's where you want to go.
Ventura Boulevard. It's a beautiful theater, by the way.
And they do a lot of solo pieces there.
I'm just so grateful because everybody wants to rent from him. And I've been with him since the 1990 actually is when I first. Yeah. So.
Wow.
I'm just lucky that I get to stay there.
So I want to end with your book, Acting with Impact, but your cards.
My life emotion cards, these.
Yes. Can you tell us a little bit about, first of all, why you created these cards, and then what is the purpose of these cards for actors?
The cards are like a love letter to my students, because in the 90s, I used to take, the beginning of emotion is knowing the emotion. Otherwise, you're just going to go on, well, if it's like fear, when was I last afraid? Well, that's not the emotion. What does the emotion mean? And so when we look up the definition and we really get a real perspective of fear is such a simple emotion. I probably should do I'm looking it up right now. If we would look up the actual definition of fear, we would get like danger of being hurt. Well, danger of being hurt. Well, I can imagine the danger of being hurt, or an immediate threat, or in distress, no safety. when I get the definition, I can use my imagination and I can actually create scenarios that will stimulate and trigger that feeling. So it's really important to have definitions because then you come with a clean slate. Like let's do loss. Loss is, it's something loved taken away. Something loved taken away. The demise of a person or thing, the end of something wonderful or affectionately revered. Well, I can imagine, first of all, I can imagine being very attached to somebody and loving them, and I don't even have to have that in my life right now. And I can imagine that being taken and me feeling that loss. So that's what the cards are about. They're about helping actors motivate emotions. And I wrote all the definitions, and it also has exercises in it. And I used to, when we had Samuel French bookshops, I'd sell at least 20, 25 a month. They were really popular. Now I just sell them on the website and I sell them on Amazon. But
people buy them on the website, not on Amazon. Thank you very much. Okay, go ahead.
And yeah, I don't care where you buy it. I'm so not attached to, what is it? I want you guys to have what I needed in my life. I want you to have this stuff. I want you to have the life emotion cards. I want you to have the book because the book will make so much sense for you. You'll be able to understand how you think and how you feel and why you feel the way you feel. It's, I have my master's in spiritual psychology, which I got that degree because I wanted to know if my principles, if what I was doing, I needed to make sure that what I was teaching was actually accurate. And I found out everything I was teaching, there was actually names for it. An old, an Italian psychologist from the 1800s did visualization work, and they called it psychosynthesis. Everything I've been doing with my instincts was absolutely accurate, gave me tremendous confidence. And right after I finished, that's when I started writing my book way back. I got my degree in 2000. And after that, I just realized, okay, everything, and I could line it up, gave me a tremendous amount of confidence to actually write the books and give these gifts out to actors because I want you guys, these were really expensive to make, believe it or not. And I don't, I didn't care because I had all through the 90s been telling actors, I promise I'll make some cards. I promise, because I used to have just a sheet I'd give everybody and they'd look it up on the page, and so by creating these cards, it was like a promise I kept to my students.
I love that. I love that. What do you love about acting?
Do you know that I asked that to all my students?
No.
That's one of my questions at the very beginning, and it's in the book too. What is it about acting that you love? Well, what I love about acting is that it's an incredible science experiment in the human condition. I've always asked, what is this about? What is this about? What is life? What is this moment? What am I experiencing? What is this thing we're traveling through? And acting for me, as an acting teacher and as a director, and I was an actor, I've gotten closer to it. I've gotten closer to understand this journey that we're on. And I've also had tremendous joy in the journey, exploring it. And that's what it is for me. And that's why I love it. Because every day something new happens. Like if a scene happens and you have a visceral experience of what it feels like to be human. And you have moments that are absolutely beautiful and dark and rich and satisfying, because you guys, you can do it in the silence on stage. You can make the audience, you can hear a pin drop. That's the goal when it's great work. And then you can bring that work to your film and TV. You can bring it to your auditions. And if you can do it in the room with the class, you can do it anywhere.
Where do you want to be in 5 years?
I want all the books done. I want the books out. And I imagine I'll be speaking a lot and I'll be traveling and I'll still be teaching, but I'll probably be traveling more, speaking about this work and how it applies to all the arts, how it applies to writing, how it applies to directing. A lot of my actors are writer directors as well. And they came to me, and then all of a sudden they found themselves with this skill, and they started directing their friends. And so I have an actor. There's so much glory and wonderful reality of all my students and what they've accomplished and where they are now, all the way, in Oscar award-winning features, all the way to winning their own awards. And one of my students 2 years ago won the HBO Visionary Award for his film that he directed, Nirv Bhakta. And I'm just so proud of so many students. I can't even begin to tell you all of the success stories because it's countless. And I've also had major stars come to me wanting coaching. And I always feel like it's best for them to talk about me as opposed to me talk about them.
I love that. What do you want your legacy to be?
That I helped demystify the technique for acting. And I got rid of a lot of the red tape and BS. And that I made it easier and more reachable and attainable. And that people fell in love with the art of acting and the craft of acting. And I hope that I helped a lot of people along the way.
How do you use your coaching to inform your directing?
In what way? You mean when I talk to actors, or just
when you're directing in general, when you are the director? Because we know you coach and you work with the students, but you also direct. So taking all that information that you have been putting out for years and you have now been directing, what skill sets from your coaching do you bring into directing?
Everything. You can't leave anything behind. Everything that I've ever done, every film and everything when I was an actor, I bring that in too. A good coach learns from their students, I learn from my actors too. I mean, they've opened the door for me. I think directing is very, very, very hard. I think people don't give people enough credit for it. You have to be so daring and so willing to make a strong, bold choice with other people's money. It's a big deal. And a lot, you're carrying a lot on your shoulders. And then also the producers, you have a relationship with your producers. You have to work with them. I find that the relationship with my actors is just bliss. And that navigating the producing aspects has been the biggest challenge probably for me, where I grow as an artist.
Thank you so much for watching this episode, and please leave a comment, let us know what you think, and share it with your friends. And don't go anywhere, because coming up is the next episode on how to have a good relationship with your agent. We all need to do that. Check it out now.